Hi, this is Todd Schultz, and I just wanted to give you a quick walkthrough about the mechanics of doing data flow diagrams using Microsoft Visio 2013. This is going to be just focusing on the mechanics, how to get the shapes in place and hook them up, and some ideas of how Visio can make that visual representation very effective. What a data flow diagram is and exactly how to interpret it and whether it's the best use for a particular need. Those are all great questions and in some ways the important questions, but not questions that I take up here. And you'll notice with any of these process diagramming techniques, sometimes the exact details, what the shape looks like. Is it a circle? Is it a rounded rectangle? Are there some other similar shapes? Just maybe a little bit different, but there is this purity to data flow diagrams and the way we're going to do it that stick with the four basic symbols. Okay, and so remember that Visio is a great tool, but opening up Visio or something isn't going to tell you what to diagram any more than opening up a word processor tells you what to write. If you know what you want to write, then the word processor is a great tool to help. Okay, so with all that, data flow diagrams, quick look. What you should know is data flow diagrams start with a context diagram, and kind of let me get maybe a pen so I can do some things up here. A context diagram, which has one process, doesn't get a number here. The key inputs and outputs from the process, and the key external entities that affect the process. And so there's a lot of theory, if you will, or description, understanding you have to have, well, what's external, what's internal, data flows. But this is pretty basic. It says a customer provides a payment. There's some activity called a cash receipts process, and that spits out or develops something called a deposit that goes to the bank. And so that's external. But that's a context diagram. And then the context diagram is exploded, it's called, or partitioned, broken into detail at least one level. And so a context diagram always has a level 0 diagram behind it that says, well, here are the main processes that make up doing that particular process. Okay, so cash receipts, the payment really gets consumed in something called received payment, and there's some internal data flows that get propagated, and then there's a record sale. There's some things going to a data store, some other processes, and so this is where you really start in terms of semantics or what the data flow diagram means, get down to what happens. And as you know or should know, these can be further broken down into level 1 and level 2 data flow diagrams till you have all the relevant detail. It is important that a payment comes in, a deposit comes out. So overall for this process, if I do it right, a payment comes in, a deposit comes out. So this red circle is a breakdown of this guy. So I did a whole lot more of what data flow diagrams are about than I really needed to. We're on the mechanics. Well, how do I make a picture that looks like this if I already have a picture that maybe I've drawn on the back of a napkin as an example? So we will do some things in Visio. Just some things to remember. We're going to use the Gain Sarsen DFD template. There's a couple of templates in Visio, but this is the purest and simplest. We're going to drag and drop the appropriate shapes, make sure that the data flows actually connect to the shapes. Avoid crossing lines. Look for appealing. Spread the images out. The exact match to the example is not the goal. Meaning that, gosh, if your record sale happens to be over here, or you put 3 over here and 2 over there, that is not an important issue. What is important is a functional match. Exactly what data flows are consumed and prepared. Where did they go? That is the important thing. And there's a trick you can do in Visio where you can take a process and make it so it'll have a hyperlink to the page where you have your next level diagram. And so that's a cute idea. So let me just switch over and get over into Visio and try to reproduce that particular thing. Yeah, I started up Visio. I happen to be on a just without anything open. So when you come in, or if you're already in, do File and New. And a good way to get started with these is to look for the template that says Gain Sarsen. If you look for data flow diagram, you'll find another template, and it's not the end of the world. It's got some extra symbols that we're not going to use. What we want are process, data store, interface, data flow. And yes, the picture I showed had circles for processes. We'll use rounded rectangles. I think it had parallel lines for a data store. We'll use parallel lines with a thing on the end. Okay, so that's not the thing that sweats. Ought to sweat you. I'm going to use view here and zoom maybe to maybe page width will do it. Yeah, and get up near the top. And well, great. And if we kind of remember, we have and they call it an interface. We called it an external entity. So I dragged that guy on there, and if I click on it, I can type in what the name of that is. We had a process. There's another interface, external entity. Notice how that those little dotted lines that come in. Visio is trying to remind me that when I get these things lined up, and so that's kind of nice, a good way to make a pleasing sort of diagram. And you can eyeball it too. I think if I remember, this was the bank, and this was. Well, let me go look rather than guess. Okay, it was cash receipts process and bank. And we got a payment and did a deposit. Cash receipts process. Very good. So cash receipts process. Good. So drag the right things. When you do a data flow and drag it on, notice that it's going to have a end and an arrow. Okay, so make sure that you get the right direction. So I'm dragging this, and notice how customer turned green then, and that little glue to shape came on. Yeah, that's what you want. You don't have to glue it on the bottom. You can glue it on the side. I guess it's deciding it wants to go on the bottom. I thought I could glue it on the side, maybe if I moved it up or something. But the important thing is to glue it. Okay, it wants the bottom, and there's probably a way to control that. But the gluing is the important thing, so if I move that around, it stays glued. Same thing if I focus back on the arrow, then wait till it turns green here. Now it's glued it to this. So if I'm rearranging things, then it's coming the right way, and Visio's making some decisions about where the arrow goes, and that's fine. In data flow diagrams, you can use the square connectors, and nothing wrong there. I'm right-clicking and choosing a curved connector. That's more the style of data flow diagrams, but it's not critical. And what was coming in was a payment, and what was going out was a deposit. So let us go. This is, and so if I click on this guy and say payment, it'll put the label. And the labels are important. Everything gets a label, maybe perhaps except the data flows in and out of a data store. You should have learned about that in class because it's kind of understood. And deposit. Okay. One thing I didn't, point out, when I created a Gain-Sarson diagram, it labeled this page, the first page, as top process. I can rename that if I want to context, but context and top process are both the same thing. Okay. Now, if I have to do another, one of my levels, so data flow diagram documentation usually involves several, sometimes 50 and hundreds of different diagrams as we break the process into detail. We can use the same Visio file. I just need to go here to a insert page, and now I'm on page 2, and I don't want to leave at page 2. I might call this level 0 to put my level 0 diagram. Okay, and on the level 0 diagram, and I don't know that I'll do the the whole thing, but this is where we'll do this. So we have customer makes payment into 1.0 receive payment. Okay, customer makes payment. So here we got customer. Let me zoom in a little bit just so we can see it better. So page width, customer 1, and at level 0 and above the and say in more detail, which level 1, level 2, level 3, which are more detailed, the processes always get numbers. Okay, it helps us to decide process numbers and that kind of thing, and this still needs to be customer. There's that important balancing that goes on, and it's still got to be a payment. maybe a good start, I didn't think to do it here, is to do a copy and paste from uh, the thing to get it started per connector, and this is a payment. So, the mechanics are pretty much the same in terms of, kind of laying things out and dragging. There's a sales record that goes to record sale. I'll put in a data store. So sales record goes into record sale, and it's a sales data. So a sales record goes into, and if I get the name wrong, that's just, I probably should have it, record sale. Ding. Curve it. It's probably a way to make your sales record. I'm just trying to do the thing in 2.0. Sales record. Oh, see, I didn't follow so minus infinity for me. 2.0 record sale. Sale record. I got that wrong. But I wanted to get a data store. Right. And sales data. And it is kind of customary. You got to show the data flows themselves. But sometimes data flows into and out of a data store are not labeled because it's understood we must be pulling sale data in and out because of the name of the data store. So if you kind of get that's not really so good there. Something like that. And depending on where you put it, and you can curve them, but straight lines are just fine. I might I can affect that a little bit or not, but I wouldn't worry it too much. Okay, so that gets the picture, and so you get the rest of the things on. So if you know what to draw, Visio just kind of provides a great way to kind of get it drawn and line it up. When you save this file, I'll save it out in my documents. It's going to have a VSDX format, or excuse me, extension, and DFD demo, and that's what you end up uploading. Okay. Now we only have 2 pages. A lot of times the pages are more, significant. Go, many pages. Sometimes it's nice, and we're doing this partitioning, and so I am on this cash receipts process. I'm right-clicking. I can make a hyperlink that looks, and I'm doing subaddress to get to the page level 0. You could even go to a particular shape. What that does in the document is if I control click, it'll jump right to the page with the sub-process, right? So somebody who's looking at this and says, okay, I want to see this sub-process, or as we break this into many, many pages, it helps the navigation to use a hyperlink to get right to the page that has that sub-process. And if we wanted to do and insert some things on this guy, we'd probably want like a back button or something like that to just go, and I should have probably thought of what it might be. So maybe we put a box here that says context, or back to context. Now we'll leave it context. We could color that box. We could do a lot of things with it to make it stand out. And then we could hyperlink here and say, oh, when they click on that, go back to context. Okay, and so back home, and I'm doing control click down to the thing, and I might do something with this guy about formatting the shape. We'll let do it and fill it, and we could probably make it look like a button or something like that. That might be the thing. We could round the things, and put this somewhere, like almost like breadcrumbs or something up at the top. And now we have a diagram, and if we were multiple levels, we could go back up a level and something like that. So you have a little bit more to do. But the mechanics are fairly easy. The mechanics aren't the hardest part of data flow diagrams. Getting your brain around them is. So hope that helped you get through this assignment. And let's kind of go back in here and resume the show because I got nothing really left other than we talked about this. Consider hyperlinking. And yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Ta-ta.